We are living during a critical time on this earth, and we're witnessing how important our connection is to our bodies and our spirits, our planet, and one another.
And we're recognizing that to stand in our truth means honoring the full spectrum of our emotional human experience.
We're seeking answers in all the stories and medicine that will support us and guide us as we create the safety we need to face our fears and to feel our feels.
And we cannot do this alone. Community, connection, and compassion are at the heart of our collective healing.
I'm Ellen, a breathwork and medicine companion and creator of Trip with Ellen.
And I'm Sam, an integrative energy therapist and creator of Involution Healing. Welcome. Journey with us.
This is Woo New. It is my extra special pleasure today to introduce Yumi Sakugawa. She is an interdisciplinary artist, the author of one of my favorite books, Your Illustrated Guide to Becoming One with the Universe, as well as I Think I Am in Friend Love with You. She is a second-generation Japanese-Okinawan-American, and while I have not had the honor of actually meeting Yumi in the physical realm, I feel like even in the first conversation that we have and have been having through text messages, that she is absolutely like a soul sister that I'm just so grateful and honored to be connected with. And today I just am excited to talk about this idea and this concept of giving ourselves permission to play. I think this is something that all of us are kind of being invited in this year, especially with the yin water rabbit, to feel into and to embody. And so, Yumi, we're just so grateful for your presence and your energy and your wisdom. And yeah, we can't wait to dig in with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Ellen. I feel exactly the same way about you. I can't wait for us to inevitably hang out in person. But until then, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I'm super duper excited.
Yay, thank you. Well, I want to just dig in. Like, as most of our conversations go, it's always super organic. And I want to take us back to the last time we were able to kind of meet on the phone. And you were actually telling me, which was super interesting to me, and both like exciting and also frightening to me, that you were going to actually embark on clown school this year. And so I kind of want to start there. And I don't know if you've started yet, but
wait, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
It's so rad. And I've seen through some sort of documentary what that looks like, but I'm so curious what your experience has been, and if you haven't stepped into it yet, what you're hoping to kind of gain from that.
Oh my gosh, Ellen, it's so funny you bring that up because I just had my last class of the month-long series of clown school and last night. So I am freshly vibing from the joy of the whole experience. So thank you for asking that. So for those of you who are not familiar with clown school, and this is just my only one experience with it. So, and I'm sure there are many branches of clown school. So I'm no clown school expert, but the particular experience that that I had, it's called The Clown School. It's based in Los Angeles. David Bridle is one of the teachers and founders who taught this class. And from what I can gather, it's not so much about literally training to vocationally become a clown. I think it's more so learning about the philosophy and worldview and play of how to sort of move through the world as a clown. And so I think because with Los Angeles, there are so many working actors and performers, aspiring actors, performers, writers. There are, at least in my class, there are a lot of people who are also working actors, performers, stand-up comedians, comedy writers, as well as people like me who aren't necessarily interested in professionally becoming an actor, but just intrigued by the archetype and the permission to play and the container of time and space to be able to venture out, at least for me, to venture out of my comfort zone. And I've learned that there are many subcategories of clowning. So with this particular class series, it was focusing on the jester archetype, which was really fascinating to me because as David, the teacher, described it, the difference between a clown and a jester is that with the clown, the audience laughs at the clown, but with the jester laughs at the audience. So it's about it's about paying attention to different patterns in being a human, whether it's societal, individual structures of power, and simply looking for the truth and being able to relay the truth, which is often funny and absurd without having to put your own clever spin on it. And so, and also just seeing the absurdity and playfulness and the mystery and love of everything. And so it was really incredible experience. And I definitely plan on attending more clown school classes to further dive into the world. It was incredible.
That sounds
Highly
like
recommend
so much
it.
fun. Yeah.
I'm so
It was really
curious.
fun.
I'm so curious, like, how do you feel transformed by this experience? Like, how do you feel like that has kind of, like, I guess what the best way to maybe just kind of pose this question is, like, what is the invitation that you felt like you received through this class?
Yeah, I think it's that, well, I think so many different, the messages I've been getting from different sources, whether it was clown school or random podcasts I come across, is that the binaries that we self-categorize ourselves into, it's all arbitrary and optional, but we think that we have to place ourselves into these categories. As one podcast I listened to recently, to quote what a psychic said, we think that we have to live our life as multiple choice answers, where it's choose path A, B, C, or D, but it's so hard for us to give ourselves permission to live a full messy spectrum that does not fit into binaries or follow a linear path. And so I feel like and also my interest in taking this clown school series was that, one, I have a general desire for this year to just do weird and new things outside of my comfort zone. And also I used to do theater in college, a campus theater group at UCLA, which was specifically an Asian American theater group company, which was a really incredible experience. But I hadn't really done anything theatrical or super performative since then. And so it felt really fun to revisit that. And I feel like as a person now in my late 30s, as opposed to my early 20s, I feel like I've shed a lot of self-imposed expectations around having to be good at everything or having to monetize everything or having to excel in a certain way with creative pursuits. And so I feel like more so than ever, I'm just very wildly interested in the idea of and wanting to put into tangible practice. Oh, I just want to play for the sake of play. I just want to experiment for the sake of experimenting. I just want to try and do and generate different things and not be so preciously attached to the outcome, more so than ever. And yeah, I just want to keep doing that. And I feel like that's one of the secrets of living a very creatively fulfilling and magical life, to again, to circle back to our overarching theme, permission to play.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking about living as if there's like a multiple choice kind of, it's like I have to check this box or I have to check that box, or
Mm-hmm.
these sort of like very rigid definitions of self versus really embracing the mess. I feel like that's such a Piscean thing right now, like in this particular season that we're in, where I feel like the currents have been quite strong for me personally. I feel like I've been kind of jostled about a bit. And, just even literally 2 days ago, I was in a moment where I was by myself and literally questioning why the hell I was doing anything I was doing in my life, why I chose this path of the medicine, why I wasn't a creative director anymore, why, and just really, it was just like a moment of feeling very, I was lost, I was frustrated, I was scared. And as you were saying, like the multiple choice thing, I feel like what I was going through was actually the universe giving me this opportunity to just like blow up all those boxes and just allow myself to sort of come into a redefinition of who I am, because I think for those of us who are, especially like who have been in creative fields or whatever, I feel like you get so defined by that. And then suddenly you find yourself, I don't know, it's like that becomes your soul identity. And then
Yeah.
you sort of end up
Yes.
living up to that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's
Oh my
it.
gosh, yes, absolutely. It's like even with like the pathway of being, quitting your day job and being a creative person, that also comes with its own um rigid boxes defined by
Yeah.
capitalism and sort of like what's cool on social media.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, it's funny because I feel like I've just been having this conversation more recently in the last few days, even where I was like, yeah, I remember being in that moment where I stepped out of, advertising and digital marketing. And I was like, who am I if I'm not an account director? And then
Mm-hmm.
really like coming back into this space of like, oh my gosh, what do I even enjoy doing? What are my values? And like really getting to explore that in all of the ways that it opens up and without limitations. But that process is so in itself is so fascinating because even as things are opening up, there are these programs running in the background, right? Of like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to choose this, got to make a decision now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Yumi.
Oh, I was just affirming what both of you said.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a longer thought past
Okay, good.
that.
I didn't want to cut you off. Yeah, I mean, what both of you guys are saying is like so resonant with me too, because, oh man, I just feel like when we talk about play and we talk about, I always associate play with, again, it's like this childlike way of being in the world where curiosity is what guides me. And there really is no expectation there. It's just sort of, it's almost, you are sort of embracing the messiness and the fact that, there are no boxes and you get to draw the boxes yourself, or if you even want it to be a box, maybe you want it to be a circle, maybe you want it to be a triangle. But, there's something so beautiful about just the practice of play. And I think what you've been kind of talking about with clown school, first of all, it's so much deeper than what I had even imagined in my mind for it to be. Even the way that you're talking about Jester, and the Jester actually like laughing at the audience, or it's super interesting because it is very, very it's much more philosophical and deep than I think I ever gave it credit for.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't know that I would have ever connected those archetypes until this conversation, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I think everyone should take clown school. I am not paid to say this. I think, yeah, it was so expanding, and I think, I feel like also the power of the clown archetype, which of course comes from the OG clown archetype of all cultures, which is the trickster. I think it's about, yeah, that ability to turn conventions upside down and subvert and distort conventions to sort of see through how arbitrary all of the rules of society are, to reveal the truth beneath the scaffolding of society, societal expectations, systems of oppression and power. And I feel like that is also what witches, artists, magicians do. And that is also, I think, the force of creativity itself. It's about destroying old patterns, old pre-existing patterns, to co-create with the universe, new, to synthesize, remix, create, generate new patterns. And then which that makes me think, I feel like with even the societally rigidly defined boxes of creativity, which is, if you're a creative, as in LA, people say, are you a creative?
Yeah.
Like, I had someone who like came not from LA, and she was like, oh yeah, I noticed that people say, like, use that category, are you a creative? Or I am a creative.
Oh
So
my God.
funny.
So true.
Right. And so I feel like even with a societal expectation of creativity, it's like, oh, I'm a working painter, gallery artist who shows at galleries, or I am a set designer for Hollywood, or I am a fashion designer, or a TV writer, or a ceramicist, or what have you. But lately, I feel like the other thing that has really helped me with going deeper into creativity is that I always think back to the Brene Brown quote that she has spoken in either a talk or a book that she's done, where she basically says, it's not that there is a binary of creative people and non-binary people, it's that everybody is creative. And so the question is whether or not you are tapping into it. And so I feel like it's such a capitalistic hierarchical construct that, oh, you're creative or not creative, you're talented or not talented, you're doing good as you're talented enough to excel in the market, or you're not. And then also, I think when we broaden the definition of creativity and start off with the worldview that everyone is creative, and creativity is simply disrupting old patterns to consciously co-create new ones, then it makes me think, well, just the whole act of being human, from the day we are born until the day we die, we are creative, because just our very existence is disrupting old patterns. And so then even things like cooking, raising a family, raising your fur babies, having relationships, community organizing, teaching a classroom, starting a business, all of those things are very, very creative when you unsubscribe from the very rigidly defined parameters of what creativity and being a quote unquote creative even is. And I feel like with those definitions, it helps me, that then helped me feel so less precious and ego driven about my
Hmm.
own, you know, creative vocations.
Yeah.
And to, yeah, to be less attached to the title of, oh, I'm a comic book artist or I'm a published author, and just sort of yeah, to broaden it into a more holistic, contextual and personal approach that is more accepting and honestly more fun to
Yeah.
play around in.
Well, it's like because you're embracing the change in every moment, you know,
Right.
and you're destroying like the boundaries or the, you know, the defining the rigidity, I guess, around your who you are and the expression that you have to offer the world. And it's so interesting. It's like I'm kind of laughing to myself because we started out before hitting record by me asking Yumi, like, how do you want me to introduce you? And here come all of those like definers, right? Like, okay. And we always think in terms of productivity. And I
Right.
think that's exactly what you're kind of getting at with this, like, this very structured, capitalistic, and very, very rigid and oppressive model and system that we live in right now, where we are defined by our output. We're defined by what we create. We're defined by what the world sees in us through our just sheer output. It's not about like, you know, I would not define myself as like, you know, a loving aunt to two nieces who I adore and want to spend more time with, you know, because and that's very much who I am, you know, and that's
Mhm.
honestly part of my purpose here is to spend time with my nieces and as much time as I can get. But I have not ever been taught that that's important or that that is a beautiful definition of who I am or part of a, you know, part of this whole package of who Ellen is in this world, you know? So it's just really interesting that like even the idea of play and really focusing on play, it's almost another way of like really getting back to the journey itself rather than the destination that I think sometimes we kind of talk about, not really so much focusing on the output, right? The product at the end of the day, the destination, the goal, and really relishing in the exploration and the messiness and the, you know, the invitation to just not know where you're going necessarily, but enjoying every single step of it.
Yeah. And even like to touch on what you were mentioning about going back to the journey, allowing the way that that creative expression of yourself comes into the world to constantly be changing and not having to be like, oh, you know, I've been in this one industry for 20, 30 years and this is like everything I know versus like, oh no, one day I'm an explorer, the next day I'm an auntie, the next day, you know, and I'm all these things all the time, but like really getting to step into all those spaces and enjoy them and appreciate them.
I love that. And I think, you know, speaking to the idea of process over journey, I think also for me, so much of inviting in more play is remembering what it was like to be playful and exploratory as a child, where, you know, playing in a sandbox or just like doodling in a giant piece of paper, if somebody had told me, okay, you're in this sandbox now, make these amazing castles and you'll be graded, and oh, these sandcastles, it's training for supporting yourself and paying the
Right.
bills. Yeah, that's going to suck the joy out of everything. So I like to use a sandbox metaphor when I'm thinking about my own creative practice, and also when I'm facilitating workshops for people who want to tap more into their creative practice. I think it's so important, really, for any person who wants to just feel more creative and embrace their inherent birthright as being a creative human, is to have your own personal sandbox to play around in with, and the rules of the space is that there's no judgment and there's no there's no standard that needs to be met. And so it's a question that I like to ask myself and also pose to other people. What is your personal sandbox time, container of time and space, where you get to play around and just feel the joy of exploring and messing around with process? And how can you carve out time and space and possibly literal physical space to be able to do that?
That's such a beautiful invitation. I'm like literally trying to think about what my personal sandbox actually looks like.
Yeah, I want to know. Both of you. What would your personal sandboxes be?
God, man, it's like, it's actually a little sad. I'm like, I have no idea what that looks like, because it's like, I mean, this is why we're having this conversation today. I feel like I need to actually give myself a sandbox, because everything I've done has always been so directed at this outcome, you know? But even in the process, like, so I think this is actually a perfect example. I'm in the process of recording my first breathwork album, and it's exciting, right? But it's also been scaring the shit out of me because I'm being definitely met with my own perfectionism. And, you know, I was explaining to Sam, like part of this endeavor, part of this project was to even figure out what my process is, because, you know, whenever I guide breath work, it's always channeled and very organic, and I may plan sort of a theme of what the journey is going to be about based off of the currents that are available, you know, astrologically, seasonally, but I don't write or script out anything. It's very, again, very organic. And so this was a completely different process for me, where I had to sit down and first of all create a playlist based off of music that I don't know, and string it together in such a way where it still feels emotive to me. And all this music doesn't have lyrics, which I also rely on sometimes to carry that frequency through. So much of it had to rely on my voice and what I wanted to say in along with the music, almost kind of like a 50-minute long spoken word piece. So it really put me out of my element, and it brought up every single fear I've had about, oh my God, what are people going to think? Oh my gosh, is this going to actually even work? Like, how do I get to that transmission of my heart? And really, I think this is coming up for a very specific reason. I was feeling into so much fear leading up to the very first recording session, and the day right before that, you know, it's like every time I was trying to write the script, and basically what I did was I created the soundtrack and I recorded myself guiding so that I can capture the organic nature, and then I would go through and clean up the recording, the transcription. And I was having such trouble, like, you know, I felt like there was this block there. And the day before that first recording studio time, I finally sat with cacao. I sat with cacao and a small microdose of the sacred mushroom, and I just sat with these medicines for a while, and suddenly I felt my heart burst open, and it was like I was able to reconnect to my why I was doing this in the first place. And all of this love, it's like it just started gushing out of me. And I realized the reason why I want to do this is because I want people to be able to feel held and feel safe through my voice, through the music, through this frequency. I want them to feel how loved they are and how supported they are through my voice. And that's what I really wanted to transmit through this. And I cried, and it just like, it felt so good to reconnect to the why and to that frequency. And that gave me the space to be able to finally basically go into that recording studio and connect to the reason why. So going back to the sandbox, I feel like it's what allows me to connect to those frequencies, and it's dance. It's
Oh
taking
my
a
God.
walk out in nature.
I
You
was
know?
just thinking the same thing. I was like imagining dancing around in my living room. I was like, that I guess feels very resonant here because it's just like being for being, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. Being for being. It's so simple yet so hard.
Yeah.
I love that. And what a beautiful story, Ellen. I think, well, first of all, I cannot wait to hear your album. And
Thank you.
yeah, it's yeah, it's been so interesting to me also that somewhat similarly, I feel like the more I give myself permission to play, the more that heart truth of why I do all of this comes through. It sort of rises up to the surface organically without having to force anything. It's like that frequency is always there, and through play and experimentation and openness, we uncover the obstacles that are blocking us from hearing or feeling that frequency that is always there.
As you're
Yeah.
saying that, oh, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, Yumi, when you're in your element and you're reconnecting to that frequency, what does it look like for you?
Yeah, I think there are, and I feel like my sandbox, it could take on different forms. So, for example, every day I intend to meditate for 20 minutes. So it's sitting in silence and listening to the stillness within me and around me. And I also love to do a practice called the morning pages, which the artist and author Julia Cameron recommends in her book, The Artist's Way, which is 3 pages of stream of conscious writing in a notebook every morning. And so I also love to do that. And I feel like that is also a very sandboxy activity of, oh, I'm just generating words and writing without caring about the quality or the content. And and also something that I really started doing this year is just doodling more. And so doing the doodling equivalent of morning pages, which is, oh, I want to consciously just draw more without trying to make it into a final thing. And also I think consciously seeking out experiences like plowing school or even just connecting with other like-minded soul sisters, soul siblings to ignite the sparks within me, or even having a day of rest, I think is also kind of a sandbox in itself where it's like, okay, I don't have any ulterior agenda. I'm just going to take this entire day or afternoon or morning or evening to just rest and do nothing and let my body lead me into a natural rhythm of what feels most rejuvenating or restorative to me. And I think in all of these sort of open-ended activities, the frequency of, yeah, this organic truth just kind of rises to the surface because I'm not trying to exert control or trying to force something into happening. And I think, yeah, it's kind of indescribable. I think it's that I feel like something that I've been thinking lately is that we must remember again and again because we are going to forget again and again. And I feel like so much of self-care, creative practice, being human, it's reminding ourselves over and over because I think, even if we say figure out our why or learn to love ourselves. We're going to forget. It's
Yeah.
never a one and done deal where it's like, okay, great, I connected with this frequency. Now I'm set for the rest of my life.
Right.
It's if only it were that easy. Or with healing, like, oh great, I uh transmuted this trauma or painful experience. Done. I think it's like, no, I know, it's so hilarious. We're going to, it's like, but then, like, other stuff in life comes up. We get swept away by just sort of the minutia of life, and the messiness of like expectations of life. And so I think, which is why these, sandbox activities, as I like to call them, it needs to be a regularly occurring thing, because I think it's that dance, as Sam mentioned, where we have to keep rediscovering it, reconnecting with it, because it's it's just not it's I think, unless you're super enlightened, or you're I don't know, a monk living in the mountains, you're probably not living in this frequency 24/7. And so
Oh,
I think,
definitely.
yeah, it's that dance of connecting with it, losing it, reconnecting with it again. And of course, you're a different person every time you connect with that, whatever that frequency is for you. And maybe the frequency you connect to also changes. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just that ongoing dance of reconnecting, remembering yourself.
As you're talking about the sandbox too, and I'm literally like hanging on every single word that you're sharing because it resonates so much. What's coming through for me is that it really is about the container that you create for
Yes.
yourself, right? And I was thinking about in our past conversation, you had mentioned this, and this was really potent for me too. And I've been kind of like sitting with this as well and realizing how much I want to implement this more into my life. But we were talking about healing, and you were talking about how this year, just even the idea of bringing people together for a gathering, whether it's like a potluck dinner or like, just friends sitting around a table, like being able to receive healing in these spaces that we would probably not traditionally call quote unquote healing spaces, because it's not like we're receiving Reiki in these spaces, or like we're doing breath work in these spaces, or, doing some sort of like meditation, or, but just the container and the love that you kind of put into creating the container for people to gather, for people to connect, for people to share. Very much even like what we're in right now with this, like, just sitting here together and talking. There's magic here, and there's also a lot of healing here as well. And so it makes me think that, like, it really is about the container more than anything else, and giving yourself the space to create these containers, whether it is like that 20-minute meditation that you have, that little container that you create for yourself, or, the 5-minute, throw a song on and dance your ass off, container, or, just these, yeah, it's the space.
No, I love that so much. It's like soul nourishment just by like being in connection with friends. Or I really love that example, especially because we don't traditionally think of that as being like a quote unquote healing space. But I think especially with COVID now more than ever, we're realizing how important that community and that connection is in like the healing journey and just being human, right? Because we're not meant to be alone.
Absolutely. I think one reframe I heard recently is that with healing, it's always relational, even if, aspects of your healing journey is done in solo or in in isolation or without other people. Ultimately, it's all relational. It all goes back to the relationship, our inherent interconnectedness that we all have, and also yeah, challenging the very hyper individualistic culture that we are inundated with in America, that is just simply not true and toxic.
Yeah, I I feel that so much, and I really love how it really frees us up, I think, to have more experiences and to kind of open up. It's again breaking the barriers of what defines each of these quote unquote experiences, right? And like, I don't know, I think, Sam and I are launching our first retreat in Costa Rica, and like, yes, it's a healing retreat, yes, it's a medicine retreat, but more than that, I think what I'm starting to realize, and I'm like literally realizing it in real time right now as I'm talking to you guys, but it again, it's like it goes back to just like we could be sitting and having a meal together, and that's going to be healing. We can be
Yes.
visiting a part of our offering is to go visit a biodynamic farm and to receive a tour and learn about their farming practices so that we can be a little bit more conscious about our relationship with the land. Like there's healing in that too, but there's healing also in just being together, like walking the land, seeing it from our different perspectives, like physically just touching the soil. I mean, there's just like
and just
healing is
sharing
in
that
everything.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know? And there's play in that too. And I think there's something so beautiful about like when you talk, Yumi, about like just the magic of gatherings, of just, coming around together over food. And, food has become more, and I mean, it has always been central to my life. I think being an Asian woman too, it's like I think food has always been a love language of my family, and it's a love language that I know that I carry into my relationships too. But I'm realizing so much how connective and how much play I also can experience in food too, which is super interesting for me as well.
Yeah, I feel like cooking has become, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, a really fun container for me, um, to just be in that creative space, which is never something I was called to before, but very likely because I never had time to cook. But yeah, it's something that like not even when I was growing up was I very interested in, and there's so much richness in reconnecting to the land and the plants and all the life around us that becomes part of us when we eat and when we share, and it's a very cool space. I'm loving it.
Same here. I too have connected with the love language of food and cooking as a creative practice. I think this means we need to gather soon in person and do a
Absolutely.
potluck.
Oh my god, I would love that so much.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Like have
Yes.
candles and beautiful
Yes.
home cooked food, and oh my
So
gosh,
amazing.
yes.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to bring this up also. You had shared that you recently went back to Japan to see your parents,
Mhm.
and that through that trip, you also were able to connect to, it's like connecting to your ancestors, connecting to the motherland. And I'm curious if you'd like to share a little bit about that too, because I feel like it's all very much interwoven to this conversation today as well.
Oh my gosh, yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Ellen. So my parents, who are first generation, they both respectively moved to Southern California in their early to mid 20s, and so I grew up as a second generation Japanese-Okinawan-American in Orange County, California, for all of my pre-adulthood, and then I lived in Los Angeles pretty much my whole adulthood onward. And so it was a big shift for me, for my parents to move back to Japan in December of 2020. And so I feel like sort of my center of gravity as to where my parents were based, I think I always assumed that they would be in Orange County for the rest of my life. That abruptly shifted, and so being able to visit them for the first time since the pandemic, since the borders of Japan was closed off to foreign visitors up until late last year, last fall, I was finally able to visit them, and also when I visited them last year, it was the first time since 14 years that I've even visited Japan. And so when I visited Japan before, I was in a very, very different place. I had just graduated from UCLA with an art degree that I had no idea what to do with. And I was working abroad in Japan as a conversational English teacher, since that was one of the very few jobs that I could get where the only requirements were a college degree and ability to speak English. And that ended up being like one of the lowest points in my mental health, where I was depressed out of my mind. But also it ended up becoming one of those cosmic life experiences where that was how I got into meditation and mindfulness practice, which then, of course, sort of changed the whole trajectory of my life as I became more and more immersed into meditation and spirituality, and making comics and illustrations around meditation and mindfulness and connecting with the universe. And so coming back to Japan 14 years later, it was so interesting to revisit the motherland as a person who has experienced more of adulthood, has healed more of past traumas, has learned to love herself, and to integrate more of my past life experiences. I feel like in a previous visit to Japan, I think I really felt like an outsider, where I felt that divide of I'm not Japanese enough to assimilate into Japanese society. And I also do have I think an ongoing pain point about not being fluent enough in Japanese. Like I speak it okay, I could speak it with my parents, I could carry conversations, but it's definitely not nearly as proficient as a native speaker. So I've always had a chip on my shoulder about that. And so I feel like, yeah, I just feel like I had just so many pain points that I carried when I was in Japan 14 years ago. And so being able to come back recently, it was just a completely different experience. I had that year decided to learn Japanese on my own terms, to confront that pain point. And so I had been taking private Japanese lessons. And 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 so I think before going to the trip, I had made a conscious decision of I am ready to embrace the pain. I'm ready to go into those dark, tender pain points in my psyche around my cultural upbringing, my Japanese-ness, and all, all that baggage and trauma of having to assimilate and being a minority and always being considered an outsider in America and also in Japan. I'm like, you know what? I could take all of that on. And so I feel like coming to Japan this time, it just felt so much, it was completely different. It felt so much more healing. I didn't feel like I had to prove myself in any way. I think I just embraced the fact that, okay, you know what? My Japanese isn't perfect. I was born in America, but I'm still like a part of the culture. I'm still a part of greater diaspora, even if my Japanese isn't perfect, I could still communicate with people. And that's the most important thing. And I feel like because I came in with my own inherent sense of wholeness, I I was able to integrate disconnected parts of myself. I was able to, I think, experience a different way of connecting with my parents. I feel like, yeah, I feel like, and I was talking to another fellow Japanese American friend who I met in college, who was also, who was living in Tokyo, and I got to meet up with him. And he was saying that he had to overcome this like hatred of how Japanese people rejected him, um,
Wow.
like his own shadow. And I really connected with that because I feel like, um, as someone who also went to Japanese Saturday school as a kid, which I hated, I felt like whether this was real or not real, I felt rejected by Japanese culture. And I feel like I did have this like internal sense of feeling rejected and hated by Japanese culture, whether or not that was true. And so yeah, I feel like it was reclaiming the sense of wholeness that I didn't realize I had rejected for myself. And so I'm really excited to um yeah, recontextualize my connection to my Japanese culture. And I will be visiting Japan again in April, and I will also be visiting Okinawa in October to connect with my Okinawan family. And I haven't been to Okinawa for even longer, probably for about 16 years. And that's a whole other side of my lineage that I think I finally feel ready to explore. And so there's a lot of homecoming that I'm just really excited to finally receive, that I feel ready to receive.
Wow.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah, I resonate with so much of it, especially even like the fact that you felt like you were rejected by Japan. I did, Chinese school on Sunday the whole night. My mom was my teacher. Not a great
Oh no.
situation there.
Wow.
um,
That's a lot.
it's a lot,
Yeah.
but it's so interesting. It's like as you were talking, I was just almost kind of like reflecting on this whole conversation around play and breaking boxes, and just even the box of like, am I Japanese? Am I American? Am I, like allowing space for all of that to coexist, and you saying that you are coming into wholeness, being able to like really face some of these parts of yourself that where there was resistance and there was like a lot of feelings of rejection, whether that was true or not. It just feels like further like box breaking,
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh man,
absolutely.
this is such a, oh man, it's just such a potent conversation. And I just feel like on a personal level, I really, really needed it today, because just of everything that I'm going through right now. And again, I feel like we're in the season of really, again, it's a box breaking season.
Yeah.
It
I love
feels
that.
right.
Piscean oceanic waters.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
bring it all in.
Yeah. Man, thank you so much, Yumi, for just this beautiful, beautiful conversation. I cannot wait to hear more about your trips to Japan.
Oh
I'm
my
hoping to
gosh.
make
Yeah.
one myself this year if the stars align. And, I am just like, oh, please take me back there. It's literally, even though it's not my motherland, it is a place that for some reason I feel a very spiritual connection to,
Yeah.
kind of like Hawaii as well. Like those are the two places that are drawing to or calling to me. But yeah, I hope I'll be able to also be back in Asia as well and just be a little bit closer to, I feel like, where my roots are as well. Thank you so much. just for your wisdom, for your energy, for your voice in all of this, and just your permission for all of us to play and to break those boxes. I just love, I never made the connection between creativity and literally, like ending cycles and breaking cycles. And so that feels really resonant, and it's something that I'm going to be sitting with for a while. But yeah, just thank you.
Well, thank you, both of you, for creating this container of time and space where this, beautiful confluence of souls and themes and energy to come together. And I feel very blessed.
Yeah, I can't wait until we all get to commune together in person. It's going to be so incredible. And just this conversation even has been really fun, and just like exploring new ways to just come back into ourselves and reject those limiting labels and just recreate. So rad.
We are so excited to announce our first ever medicine retreat, Land is Body is Land. It's taking place May 23rd through 28th in Costa Rica's Playa Azul. It's going to be a sensory celebration of embodiment, where we will spend 5 nights and 6 days giving ourselves permission to slow down, to listen and feel, to taste and smell, and to really dive deeper into our senses, to observe our bodies, to witness our bodies, and our relationship to the land. Healing doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in community and in relationship. And to heal or to become whole again, we must reconnect those disconnected parts of ourselves. So that means reconnecting to the land that is our bodies, really leaning in and learning and listening to the language of frequency and sensation that our bodies speak. And we also must reconnect to the land that sustains our bodies, learning to commune with the spirits of nature and the earth. And so we'll be visiting a biodynamic farm, exploring food, learning about our sacred relationship with food. We'll be journeying through breath work, receiving healing through Reiki and sound, and also journeying with the sacred mushroom. So we hope that you can join us. If you're interested, please fill out our intake form on our website, wearealldaughters.co. Again, our website is wearealldaughters.co. We hope to welcome you into our circle. Music for Wu Nu is composed by Adam Miller.